Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for our second from last season review. We are nearly there. What a grind. I've nearly done all of them. And today we are going to be talking about Bristol City, and call it what you like, transitional season, wasted season. It's not been a good one for Bristol City, who have set pretty high standards, I think, over the last few seasons and been involved in a fair few viable playoff chases. That coupled with really, really good recruitment and a general sense of the club trending up, feels like they hit a little bit of a wall this season. And we're going to go into it, but I've got to do it. I don't want to do it, but I've got to do it. Up on the wall there is an Ipswich Town scarf. I am an Ipswich Town fan. That has absolutely nothing to do with this video. This video is about Bristol City. We may have to make mention of a certain executive moving from Bristol City to Ipswich later in the video. Yes, I believe in freedom of speech, and if you want to comment on my club, which isn't really relevant to this subject, then you can. I would advise that mocking or insulting or disrespect aren't really necessary. And I do have to say it because I have a lot of great conversations with Bristol City fans on here, but it does seem to be that lately Ipswich fans seem to have become a bit of a lightning rod for some Bristol City anger and a little bit of resentment. However understandable that may be, this is not the video to air that. I have a video with Gregor McGregor talking about said executive, and I even run the Blue Monday podcast, who did a show about this. So again, let's try and focus this on your club, not my club. And that does need saying because it just is following me around now day after day after day. And yes, I know you Bristol City fans are in the main lovely people, but some of the comments haven't been very nice to read, I have to say. Right, that said, let's move on, and we make no mention of it again in that context. So, everything starts this season with the Holden hire. Lee Johnson out on the 4th of July, so before the end of last season. Streaky Lee, if that doesn't upset anybody, was fired. I think 4.5 years he'd been at Bristol City, still only a young guy. And after a bit of I don't know, it felt like a bit of a botched interview process, and we'd heard certain names coming in. Look, I haven't got the schedule of the interviews or transcripts of what's said, so I'm not going to pretend to have any more knowledge than I do, but very, very strong links to Chris Hughton being spoken to, but then it not happening. And it kind of felt like at the end they ended up with Dean Holden as the manager. Dean Holden, who of course was Lee Johnson's assistant. And without even sitting here with my Mr. Hindsight cap on, it doesn't really ever work out. I'd love for one to work out. So instead of talking about Terry Connor trying to have a go after Mick McCarthy, or Kevin Blackwell after Neil Warnock, or Dean Holden after Lee Johnson, or Jason Tyndall after Eddie Howe, I'd love to be able to throw one in that really, really worked out well. But the assistant stepping up, and I said this about Jason Tyndall, just feels like a bit of a no-win situation, doesn't it? If they don't match what the previous guy did, then they're not as good and out they go. And if they do, well, it's just the continuity and nothing really changed and they never get any credit. So it did feel like a bit of a hide into nothing for Dean Holden, who was given a bit of experience and a bit of support in his backroom staff. I don't know, was it a short-termy COVID-y hire? I don't know. You'd have to ask that certain executive, wouldn't you? There are the summer outs, and Well, it's not unusual for Bristol City to sell players. They've done it very, very well. There is no Josh Brownhill, Adam Webster, Joe Bryan, Bobby Reid, Lloyd Kelly, whoever, the brilliant big sales that have all gone. There is no big blue chip sale this summer, but still a fair few go out. Nicholas Eliasson, who got tons of assists, didn't he? We think a couple of million there. Sammy Smodic, who's got himself promoted with Peterborough. Matty Taylor was in the playoff semi-final, wasn't he? So was Bailey Wright. Corey Smith, well, he was in the playoff final. Don't know if he got on the pitch, did he? Then some loans out. Cundy, Holden, Primm, Watkins, Adelaken. Joe Morrell goes out to Luton permanently. Casey Palmer as well. So, I don't know, 10, 12, probably more, didn't count them up, going out, which, you know, I mean, there is no right number of ins and outs, but you'd want it to be fairly limited and fairly even with the ins and the outs to create a good flow, which, let's be fair, Bristol City have had a very good transfer flow for the last, certainly, 3-4 seasons, and have always been a bit of a poster boy of mine for good recruitment. But, yeah, Chris Brunt on a free, Chris Martin on a free, Joe Williams undisclosed from Wigan, and 2 loans there from Fulham, Mawson and Sessegnon. We can't foresee injuries, can we? But it does feel that the excitement of certain other Bristol City transfer windows where, I don't know, Webster or Hanno Masengo or Thomas Callas or Benica Phobie, who ultimately got injured like Mawson and Sessegnon are going to do, didn't feel like it was there this season. And to give Dean Holden some kind of small pass, if we can, didn't feel like he was particularly backed in that transfer window, did it? However, look at that. A strong start, in fact, a superb start, winning the first 4 games there, Coventry, Stoke, Wednesday and Forest, all defeated, and then tack on the next 3, 1 defeat in the first 7 games. Little run of 3 defeats in 4 when they came against Norwich and Bournemouth, Swansea, Borough, who started the season well, didn't they? However, look at the next run of games. 3 straight wins. There's a draw in there as well, and another couple of victories. And look down at the table. After 6 games, after 17 games, Bristol City are in 6th place. Not only are they in 6th place, they're tied with all of those teams, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. You can already see that ultimately Norwich, Bournemouth, Watford, Swansea are going to end up in the top 6, going to be joined by Barnsley. And who else am I missing out there? Who's the other member of the top 6 that isn't there yet? Oh, I can't figure it out. My brain's not working particularly very well this morning, as you can see. But anyway, it's a really, really decent start by Bristol City. Was it Holden's doing? Was it a bit of a line through from last season? I don't know. Sadly, it's not going to last. Before we go any further, we should, and there's a lot of information on that page, we should bring up injuries, and it feels like I'm a Dean Holden apologist here, saying he didn't get back necessarily in the transfer window, and there were injuries. Both of those things are true. That's not to say that he was the right or wrong man for the job, but look, Mawson for a long time, Callas a little, well, no, he was fairly consistent. Nathan Baker, they barely get on the pitch. Sessegnon, one of the other loanees. You can see Williams and Walsh barely kick a ball between them. Vyman is done after about 6 or 7 games. O'Dowda, they struggle to get him on the pitch for, any more than a third of the season. Brentford were the other team not in that picture, weren't they? I've just remembered. There we go. If you commented, delete the comment now. I remembered. But look, horrible injury problems for Bristol City right the way throughout the season. if I don't make mention of it now, someone will in the comments for sure. Couple of January tweaks. Henry Lansbury comes in. I mean, bit of a kind of lowest common denominator gamble, that one, isn't it? He'd not been fit on the pitch for Villa a lot. I guess that was a pay-as-you-play. I think it's already done, isn't it? And then Danny Simpson's going to come on a free, a non-contract. Adrian Mariappa on a free. They're going to bring back Palmer, Adelakin, Watkins and Primm. It's all very... And as we know now, with a bit of a regime change, all does seem to be very get to the end of the season, cobble together what you can with what you've got, and certainly not really in the realm of, as we've said, good recruitment from Bristol City before, which then brings us to the slide. And look, it's horrible run there. You can see 3 defeats at the top, 5 defeats at the bottom. So that's 8, 9 defeats in 12 there. And look, obviously 12 games, 9 points. Sorry, yeah, that is the right number, isn't it? Is relegation form. I think the big thing Bristol City fans were saying to me as they dropped to 13th now from 6th after 17 games, the lack of draws in there as well. There's a lot of defeats when we look at the final table. Yes, the injuries are taking their toll, but the manner of performances as well, you can see the goals start flowing, and there's lots of 2s in there, isn't there? Rotherham 2, Millwall 2, Luton 2, Norwich 2, and then a 3 and a 6. And that losing streak there going through to sort of Valentine's Day is going to do for Dean Holden. Out he goes, and in comes Nigel Pearson, who perhaps would have been the sort of guy that maybe should have come in at the start of the season. But again, there's this real sense that with COVID, and I don't know whether they knew the regime change was going to happen at the start of the season, that it feels so like a transition season, this one, doesn't it? And maybe they didn't want to go for a Nigel Pearson type character who's got a very, very good CV, promoted a couple of times with Leicester City, 100-point promotion with Leicester City. Some great work done there. Was in the Premier League at Watford last season as well. Pearson comes in, and again, this transient temporary feel, he takes a contract to the end of the season. So that kind of plays into this temporary status, really. You do get a short bounce. Watchers of my channel will know I'm rather suspicious about the term new manager bounce. I think it's more about the players, let's just say. But it comes. You can argue it on there, especially given the rest of Bristol City's points accumulation through the season. There is 10 points in the first sort of 6 games there for Bristol City. Yes, we know Pearson was just sort of sat in the stands for the first game at Borough. But look, we'll give it to him. And again, they're holding in 13th place there on 49 points. So, look, if that continues, okay, even not as spectacularly as 10 points in 6 games, but Bristol City, you would think, would then have trended into the top half, probably, or certainly been around there. But that's not what happened at all. And there is said executive. There we go. Mark Ashton to step down as CEO. 13th of April. So, look, again, I do believe in freedom of speech. I've heard every opinion on Mark Ashton you can imagine. A lot of them not positive. I've heard every opinion on what he will do at the team I support. Again, that is not relevant now. What we do know is he's not there anymore, and this was announced before the end of the season, and it did feel like it had been bubbling a little bit before then as well. not long after that, you do get some long-term news, which is kind of good news and rare news, really, at Bristol City this season. Pearson signs a 3-year deal. He is the man. Let's see how much of those 3 years he spends. But there'd been good stability with Lee Johnson previous to Pearson arriving, I guess, before Dean Holden. But the long-term-ish deal signed. I suppose long-term as you get in a management contract now, 3 years, isn't it? But a horrible run to end the season. 7 defeats in 9 games, you can see there. Couple of draws in there against Forest and Wednesday. But look, home defeats against Rotherham and Stoke. Away to Wycombe, who ultimately finished below Bristol City in the table. Big one at Millwall. There was that horrible 2-0 up to lose 3-2 against Luton, and then Brentford at home. Okay, Brentford ultimately got promoted, didn't they? But a horrible run. And would you believe it? Dig back a little bit in the dates down the bottom there. That is a 43-game table. So, if you take away the 3 straight wins at the start of the season and start the season 3 games later, Bristol City were in relegation form for virtually all of the season. Yes, I know it's ifs, buts and maybes and where you finish, but what we can surely say is that's a long time not to be in good form and not to be winning. Less than a point per game over 43 games of a 46-game season. You can see reasonably why certain Bristol City fans I speak to have become a little bit impatient this season. Towards the end of the season, we do get a couple of interesting things. One is Nigel Pearson throwing in youngsters, basically, towards the end. Scott and Conway. I think there's a couple more that were actually used before the end of the season, and basically thumbing his nose at the players he's got there and saying, well, I'm not too bothered. Lots of players out of contract and we'll use the youngsters and playing going forward. The other thing were Pearson's explosively honest post-game reviews. There's some stuff after Luton. Today's game shows you exactly where we are. If you want an illustration to show where we are as a football club, it's that performance. Now, I would get these shared to me by Bristol City friends I've got and watch kind of agog at the first couple, and then I got quite used to it. But in the main, I would read the comments underneath if they were on Twitter, and Bristol City fans were kind of in support of Nigel Pearson with his honest outlook at some of the end of season performances. You never know with football managers, do you, whether they're positioning themselves as, look, this is not my fault, or whether you take them at face value. They are just completely telling the truth. You never ever quite know. I'm not saying one or the other is the truth, but certainly the fans were behind Pearson rather than the players, let's just say. There is that final table, and you can see that Bristol City, after winning the first 4 games, it was just a slow descent. 43 games of relegation form, ending up there in 19th position, not really helped by winning runs by Birmingham and Coventry towards the end of the season as well to move on through and past Bristol City and the form of, I mean, look at Luton up there in 12th, who did beat Bristol City in that end of season run with 11 points more. I suspect if you surveyed Bristol City and Luton fans at the start of the season, you may not have had an 11-point gap between the two of them. That's credit to Luton, though, obviously, as well. But this is not about Luton. This is about Bristol City, who ultimately only have 2 teams, Huddersfield and Derby, between themselves and relegation. And remember, we do have to parlay in a 6-point deduction for Sheffield Wednesday as well, which would have tighten things up a little more, but hey, ifs, buts and maybes. What we do know is that this transitional stroke wasted season for Bristol City, had it gone on much longer, could have been worse, but we're into ifs, buts and maybes again, aren't we? We do, much to the joy of Bristol City fans, get a new CEO. This is Richard Gould, who's Bobby Gould's son. Bobby Gould, the old Wimbledon Coventry manager, a commercial director of Bristol City, and then Somerset County Cricket Club for 5 years. Look, good luck to Richard Gould. I don't necessarily pretend to know anything about his career or him. To be honest, I don't particularly pretend to understand the exact roles and exact remit of a CEO at Bristol City. So certainly the previous one has been a bit of a lightning rod for a lot of criticism for what's gone wrong. So we will see what the new one does. In the main, I think it's a really good club and a really good job that's been trending up, and that beautiful new stand there. We always talk about the catchment area of Bristol City as well. Not too much rivalry from Bristol Rovers for fans. They've obviously been relegated, weren't they, from League One. So it's there, isn't it? If they can get that recruitment going again and a bit of an upward trend after this drab season, then Richard Gould could be a very popular guy there. There is the summary. A botched managerial appointment. I think we can all agree with that. The Dean Holden thing didn't work. With hindsight, we can sit here and say it never does, and we'll sit and wait for an example where the assistant taking over his boss's job actually does work out. Underwhelming recruitment, and feels like I'm being mean to Bristol City. I will repeat, the recruitment's been superb in past years, but Brunt on a free, and who else was it? Williams. There's another free in there. Chris Martin started the season quite well, didn't he? And then the loans, you have to say, Mawson on loan and then getting injured. Smacks of Afobe on loan the previous season. A bit unlucky with their loans. A good start. Some injury issues, but ultimately 43 games in relegation form. That meant Pearson in for Holden, maybe a little bit too late. And Gould in for Ashton as well. A transitional stroke wasted season. I mean, you tell me, it feels like there's a lot of things working together there. COVID, the Ashton era and the Ashton anger and all of that stuff seeming to come to a head during the season. It's not ideal, is it? The managerial change, lots of contracts coming up. Hey, it could turn out to be a nice buffer and Bristol City can go again, can't they? But I don't know. You tell me. Transitional, is that deliberate in big picture or wasted? Is it bad planning? Who knows? Well, I think I know what the comments we're going to get on it. What next and expectations? So this is a club that is and has been trending up since the 100 points for Steve Cotterill, wasn't it? And then Johnson and Tammy Abraham, and then pushing up the table and, you know, being in a couple of viable playoff shouts. Like I said, the good recruitment, the improvement in the stadium. What should be said, and this isn't me peeing on anybody's strawberries, is that this is a club at Bristol City that hasn't been at the top level for a long, long while. And got close, didn't they? Playoff final against Hull. I can't remember what year that was. But again, there was another League One stint in between then and now. So it's a difficult one to say what the expectations are, because the expectations for the area and with the club having been trending up are high. Obviously, historically, those expectations have not been matched. So I'd be really interested to know. And Mark Ashton is gone. He's at a different club. And if, as lots of Bristol City fans seem to be implying, he was the problem, quote, and it looks like for this one bad season or this tailing off here in what had been generally trending up, then there's a new sheriff in town. If the CEO is the most important person at Bristol City, so what are the expectations? Young players coming through, a manager that's been promoted from this division before. Obviously, Bristol City do not have parachute payments, and that is a thorny issue in the Championship that hopefully Trevor Birch will sort out. But where does this stack up now after, the fact that there's only 2 teams between Bristol City and relegation? Where does it go next season? How long term does the growth need to be, and how do you see it panning out under Nigel Pearson? There we go. That is my Bristol City season review. Hopefully, guys, I haven't come across too prickly in this one. Let's be honest, it's not been a good season. Bristol City fans aren't happy. And as Nigel Pearson said in one of those quotes, being away from the club and COVID and not being able to get in the stadium does not help. I hope you understand my point of view on the Ipswich thing at the start. It does feel like there's a bit of anger towards the outgoing CEO, and it feels like that's been a little bit foisted upon Ipswich fans who, I am one, and let me just say, we're trying to be optimistic after a very, very poor ownership and not responsible for whoever the new guys bring in. And we're just the same as Bristol City fans and any other fans. We just want our team to be competitive and do well. So, again, even though I've just mentioned them one more time, let's not make this about Ipswich. But I can't sit here and say I'm a freedom of speech believer and then tell you not to say something. So feel free to comment as you wish. What I am more interested in hearing is what next for Bristol City. Expectations. What would represent a step in the right direction and success for a club that's been pretty good, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years, albeit this has unanimously, I think, been a thumbs down this season, hasn't it? I've had my say, now you have yours in the comments. That is our Bristol City season review. Be nice. Let's keep it cordial in the comments. And it's a big, I'm going to get my tin hat, it's a big over and out from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.